Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno. I'm the founder of Real Men, Real Style. Today, gentlemen, we're going to be speaking about how to conduct an online interview via Skype, via GoToMeeting, via Google Hangouts. Now, I've conducted quite a few interviews online. I would say well into the hundreds, because as I've been interviewing people for my company, I've also done interviews in which I'm giving a presentation online, and I've done just Skype interviews in which I'm for somebody's podcast or for their vlog, so that they can use that. And I've picked up a lot of this information along the way. We also did some research, and I think that if you follow these tips, which I got 7 of them, by the way, so 7 tips on how to prepare for an interview online. I think if you follow this, you're going to really knock it out of the park, or at least you're going to control what you can in these situations. Of course, things happen, but you want to show up to that interview knowing that, hey, I've done everything I can to control the situation and to make this a success. Now, before we get into this, guys, I'm going to recommend you go check out the article at Real Men, Real Style. The reason being, I've got a checklist there for you. So go download that PDF checklist. The cool thing is when you grab this PDF checklist, you'll be able to print it right off. And that's one of the things, you don't want to have to think through this, have to, pull up this video and watch it multiple times. No, just get the checklist. I go over everything there in the checklist, so you can print that off, have it right there, and you know exactly what to do to prepare for your interview. Okay, so number 1, what's the first thing that you need to do to make an interview successful? Properly make sure that you've accepted and scheduled the interview. I can't tell you how many times that because of, somebody didn't have it in their scheduler, or they got the time zone wrong, that, we missed the interview. And I've got a system. I use Schedule Once. My friend Ramey started this company, amazing company, but there's a number of online schedulers out there that can make this effortless. Now, let's say you don't have too many interviews. It's not going to be worth you spending money for an online scheduler. Well, then use Google Docs or Google Calendar. That's got a scheduler that will adjust for time zones. You want to make sure, though, and you want to double check that you do have this properly scheduled. I've also got 2 calendars, and I make sure that they mesh together. Occasionally they don't, and when it's a really important interview, I make sure I visually go in there and make sure it's in both of my calendars. So get that date and time right. In addition, set up reminders. Google, I use Google Calendars for a lot of this. I can set up multiple reminders, not only the pop-up, but also I'll get emails sometimes 12 hours, 2 hours before. Another thing I do is, for me personally, this is a little bit bonus here, but I batch everything. So because I'm the guy usually doing a lot of the interviews, I only open up Wednesdays right now in my scheduler. So I know that on Wednesdays, I'm just going to have a whole bunch of times that I'm speaking with people. That helps keep me, kind of with 4 kids and, 3 businesses and all this other stuff that I've got going on. I know having one day that I'm doing this. Now, I know not all you guys are going to have that luxury, but what you would want to say is, hey, you just don't do interviews over the weekend. And if the company's asking for it, you may say, do I want to be a part of this company? Because to me, personally, you need to have boundaries. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is figure out, is it an audio or both an audio and a visual interview? Sometimes I'll show up to an interview and I thought it was just going to be an audio, and they get on Skype and they want to see a picture of me and all this other stuff. And yes, there are times that I'm not, I'm not prepared for that. My hair's all over, I'm just not looking great because I wasn't expecting it. Maybe, up all night with the baby. I just didn't feel like, dressing sharp for the day. So make sure that you understand if it's an audio or an audio and visual. Okay, so tip number 2 is check on your hardware and your software. So you need to have a computer that can handle it. If you've never done an audio or a video online interview, you need to understand that there are certain bits of software, especially GoToMeeting, that these are going to require that your computer actually have enough RAM and that it have enough of computational speed. You've got to make sure that that is going to work. So test it out. So make sure your hardware is running. One thing that you have to do, maybe you've got an older, slow computer, go through, turn off things that you don't need. You got Dropbox running in the background. You've got Skype, but you're going to use GoToMeeting. Well, turn that stuff off so it's not using resources. Another thing is that you want to make sure that you've got a great microphone. This, again, is probably one of the biggest problems I see is people think that their just regular computer microphone is going to be fine. That's one of the worst microphones there. Two reasons. One, it's not usually the best quality, especially on cheaper computers. The other reason is it's right there in the computer, so it usually picks up sounds that the computer is making. So your fan turns on. It doesn't sound that great. I recommend, and again, go over to the article that's going to support this video, and I'm going to give you some recommendations. But right off, I use the Blue Yeti. Love that thing. In addition, the 920 Logitech, I believe, camera with microphone actually works out really well, and that gives me a really sharp camera that I've even used to film some of these videos. So your hardware and your software. Point number 3, the connection. Okay, so you need to understand that there are two parts to a connection. There's your download speed and your upload speed. Most people know their download speed, but they don't even think about their upload speed. Your upload speed is important because that is the signal that you're sending up. And if you're doing a, one that has video on it, you want to have a high enough upload speed so that you're not appearing pixelated. In addition, you may only be on your computer at certain times of the day. You need to check out, are there peak and non-peak times in which you're going to see a lot of usage? Usually peak times are going to be starting in the morning. Actually, during the day, it's not usually too bad, but in the evening and going later into the evening, you see tons of people, especially if you're in a small town and you got a limited amount of bandwidth coming in, you may just have slower internet times. So me, I've paid for 20/20, which is basically 20 download, 20 upload. I live in a small town. I've got fiber optics coming right into my office and to my house. But I will tell you, in the evenings around 7, 8 o'clock at night, everything slows down because it's just we're limited by the pipe that's coming into my small town here in central Wisconsin. So make sure that you've got the resources available, and if need be, what you can do is, so you could probably call your provider. There are things online that you can check, and I'll try to link to them. But one thing that you could do is have a backup internet source. So I've got my iPhone set up so it tethers to my computer. Hey, it's not going to be perfect, but always be thinking of a backup. And actually with hardware, you could do the same thing. Have a backup computer that's already on and running in case your computer crashes. Murphy's Law happens, expect it, and that's why we prepare. So point number 4 is control the situation. So I've been in interviews with people, and all of a sudden, a dog starts barking in the background. And it's, they didn't think to put their dog. I mean, you need to be prepared for that background noise. So if you're doing an interview and all of a sudden, your kids are running around, I understand some people are in situations which they have got to do it at home. It's going to be 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock at night, and hey, the kids are back from school. Understood, but make sure to let the person know, because if you think you're having a good business interview and then somebody, some kid is back there just making faces. It's kind of funny, but you can't help but say, does this person even know this was a business interview? But try to control that situation. Do what you can. I know not everyone can control everything, but try to control that situation. Okay, so point number 5, no multitasking. So turn off your phone, turn off, all these other things. Don't be trying to type out an email while you're talking to me. I can tell. And I've done, and I felt bad because I've even done this in interviews. And I had one guy the other day say, hey, I asked that no one, do any sending out emails and stuff, even though you could probably do it. I, want your full attention. I respect that. And that's something, especially when I'm interviewing somebody, I want them to be paying full attention, to be able to understand what I'm asking and be able to answer the questions. And if you're actually doing the interview, try not to multitask. Even though you're in the position of power, you should show respect to the other person. So point number 6, practice. Now, it may be a little bit hard, especially with some of the software, but Skype, you can definitely practice on that. You can practice on Google Hangouts. Make sure that you know where things are at and that you're not making a fool of yourself, that you've never used it before. Not really making a fool of yourself, but you want to, again, you can control actually getting used to Google Hangouts, and you can practice doing this. Go to meeting, maybe a little bit harder for some of you guys out there, and I know there are other ones out there, but do what you can to practice it. Worst case, practice the interview with someone in person, but make sure to practice. And finally, point number 7, dress sharp, or at least dress in a manner that you feel is sharp and you feel prepared, even if they're not going to see you. Because here's the thing, when you dress sharp, when you dress a bit better, you feel better. And you want to hit this interview with confidence. And in the chance that all of a sudden the mic, the audio turns on or the video turns on, I've been in interviews with people and I've noticed that they dressed up for me. Maybe it's because they know I'm a style guy, but I wasn't going to judge them based off how they were dressed, or at least I think I wasn't going to. But when I saw that they went through the extra effort to put on a suit, to have a nice tie on for a Skype interview, I'm like, wow, this person gets immediately an extra bonus point. Now, I'm not going to hire them just because of that, but it does tell me they pay attention to the details and they thought I was important enough to dress sharp. All right, so hopefully you found this useful. 7 tips on how to prepare for an online interview. Go grab the PDF download at Real Men Real Style. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.